A transmission blared through the high command deck of a Galactic Empire's battlecruiser Dominion's teeth, echoing like the voice of a god across its metal hull. A dozen alien dignitaries stood in an elegant arc, each dressed in robes so starched they could be used as blades. At the center, Supreme Overcommander Virex IX, scourge of the Eastern Nebulae, bared his 6 fangs in ceremonial fury. "Earth has declined our final accord," the translator droid said, attempting to muffle the heresy with monotone professionalism. Gasps reverberated across the hall. "Declined," hissed the Emperor's tactician. "Do they not understand the weight of this proposal? It was generous. We only demanded 80% planetary control and 2 children per household as tribute." "Perhaps," muttered Ambassador Zathkar, "they do not respect us." Over-Commander Virex narrowed his eyes until they became black slits. "Then respect shall be extracted." With a single command, he summoned the Empire's most infamous solution, the Lethal Six. Genetically engineered on moons where oxygen is optional and morals non-existent, these assassins had crushed rebellions, vaporized entire planetary councils, and ended more dynasties than royal inbreeding. They didn't speak. They didn't eat. They simply eliminated. "Deploy Project Silent Eclipse," Virex growled. "Earth will kneel, or Earth will burn." And somewhere millions of light years away, a woman named Linda Jameson was elbow-deep in a 1996 Ford Taurus, trying to dislodge a raccoon that had crawled into the engine block. "Damn things Chaewin through the wires again," she muttered, cigarette dangling from her lip like a stubborn toothpick. Her coveralls were smeared with grease, her steel-toed boots were mismatched, and the only glow in her eyes came from the LED flashlight clamped between her cheek and shoulder. She reached for her monkey wrench, the good one, the one that still smelled like the Battle of Detroit's worst carburetor job, and gave the raccoon compartment a warning knock. The creature squealed and bolted. "Yeah, that's what I thought." The scrapyard stretched around her like a post-apocalyptic jungle, littered with broken dreams, crushed fenders, and the occasional haunted microwave. Old oil barrels rusted in the corners. Wind whispered through shattered windshields. Then came the familiar buzz. Her work tablet chirped with a priority message from the Interstellar Liaison Committee. She squinted at it, wiped the screen with her sleeve, and let out a groan. "Galactic complaint, Classes 7, potential extermination incoming. Targets identified. Human species, blah blah blah, response required immediately." She sighed. Well, hell. Again. Her neighbor, Pete the lizard alien, who ran the taco truck next door, peeked over the junkyard fence. "They finally doing it? Sending the murder bots." "Looks like," she replied, stretching her back until it popped like bubble wrap. "And on a Friday." Pete clicked sympathetically. "You want tacos before the end?" Linda lit a fresh cigarette. "Hold the end. I got a wrench." 2 hours later, 6 brilliant beams of light pierced through Earth's atmosphere, scattering clouds and lighting up skies across 3 continents. Air traffic control had a meltdown. Reddit theorists went wild. CNN reported possibly Jesus. The beams landed, predictably, smack dab in the middle of Kansas. The Lethal Six emerged in synchronized formation. 6 identical assassins, 7 feet tall, sleek black armor that shimmered with embedded void crystals. Their faces were expressionless, eyes pulsing with blood-red light. Every step they took hissed with calculated menace. Crows died mid-flight. Dogs ran yelping, and their scanners pointed them straight to a solitary heat signature, a rusted, windswept junkyard just outside Wichita. Linda looked up from under a lifted Chevy hood as the ground shook beneath her boots. The sky above shimmered with blue-white energy. 6 perfect, terrifying shapes descended upon her. She flicked her cigarette into an oil pan and dusted off her hands. Well, this day just keeps getting better. The leader of the Lethal Six stepped forward, armor glinting like obsidian nightmares. Its voice was synthesized death, layered across frequencies human ears weren't meant to register. "You are human alpha designate. Prepare for elimination." Linda looked him over. "You look like a kitchen blender made love to a goth Roomba." The assassin blinked. Its processing core flickered. "This unit does not comprehend." "Yeah," Linda muttered. Neither did my last boyfriend. And I hit him with a wrench, too. The lead assassin charged, hyperblade igniting with quantum fire. Linda calmly rolled behind a junked refrigerator. The blade carved clean through it, revealing she'd rigged it with a bottle of compressed Freon and a live battery. It exploded. 2 assassins went flying, their armor sizzling with chemical burns. Linda popped up, holding a crowbar. Y'all comin' looking like the Matrix extras, but forgot humans been scrappin' since cavemen threw rocks. A second assassin opened fire, its plasma rifle tearing through stacks of old bumpers. Linda hit the dirt, rolled behind an old school bus, and grabbed a pair of jumper cables. With a shout, she clamped them to the bus's battery, jumped up, and lashed them onto the exposed joints of her attacker. Electricity surged. The assassin twitched like a robot doing the worm and collapsed, smoking. Linda pulled a dented thermos from her belt, took a swig of lukewarm coffee, and muttered, "Still better than the DMV." By now, only 3 assassins remained. They recalibrated, switching to thermal imaging and evasive protocols. One tried to go invisible. Another deployed nanite swarms. Linda wasn't impressed. She tossed a can of brake cleaner into the air, shot it mid-flight with a nail gun, and used the explosion to leap off a hood and clothesline one with a metal pipe. It didn't get up. Back in orbit, the Empire's command ship watched in growing horror. "Sir," a tactical analyst muttered, "the target has neutralized 4 of the 6. "Impossible," Virex snarled, claws gouging the armrest. "What weapon does she wield? Some ancient Earth technology? A forbidden energy core?" "Air, it appears to be a large wrench, possibly chrome-plated. Origin, Home Depot." Virex stared in disbelief. "Send the footage to the archives. The other empires must be warned, or at least entertained." Back on Earth, Linda sidestepped a blade swipe and had but an assassin hard enough to dent its cranial plate. It stumbled back, dazed, just in time for her to drop an engine block on its chest. The last assassin paused, reconsidered, and tilted its head. Linda gave it the look that mothers give before hurling a sandal. The look that said, "Try me, tin can." It ran. She chased it down with a forklift. 15 minutes later, she sat on a stack of tires, drinking coffee from a mug that read "World's Okayest Aunt," as 6 smoldering alien corpses lay scattered like yesterday's scrap metal. Pete peeked over the fence again. "Damn, Linda. You good?" She wiped sweat from her brow. "Yeah. Just wish they'd send someone interesting next time." Pete nodded toward the sky. "They will. Empire doesn't like losing." Linda sighed and looked at the stars. "Well, when they do, tell 'em I'll be right here, wrench in hand. And I just got a new socket set for Christmas." Then she leaned back and put her boots up on a dead assassin's chest plate, cracking open a can of warm soda. Somewhere, galaxies away, the most feared empires in the universe were already whispering her name in fear. And she hadn't even used the blowtorch yet. The sun was starting to set behind the Kansas plains, casting long shadows over twisted heaps of scrap and the smoldering remains of what used to be the most feared assassins in the Galactic Empire. Linda wiped her face with an oil-stained rag, spat to the side, and examined her trusty monkey wrench. No dents. Still perfectly balanced. She gave it an affectionate pat. The smell of scorched alien tech hung in the air, sharp and metallic, with an undertone of burnt plastic. Somewhere nearby, a rogue fire flickered atop a melted hoverbike. Linda stepped around it casually, her boot crunching on a piece of cracked armor that still sparked every few seconds. A part of her wanted to go home, microwave some leftover chili, and call it a day. But if galactic history had taught her anything, and she wasn't even trying to learn, it was that empires don't take well to embarrassment. She looked up. Right on cue, the sky trembled. A deep, bass-filled rumble shook the earth as a circular rupture in the clouds opened, revealing something that looked like a falling cathedral made of gunmetal and rage. An obelisk-shaped dropship descended slowly, its hull bristling with laser turrets, spikes, and unnecessarily evil angles. It settled into the field with a hiss of steam and a dramatic burst of orchestral music that seemed to be playing from external speakers. Linda squinted. You brought a sound system? Really? The side of the dropship unfolded into a ramp, and out marched the remaining 3 assassins, fully repaired, upgraded, and clearly pissed. Their armor had changed, sleeker, reinforced with pulsing red veins of alien circuitry. Their eyes were now twin slits of molten gold. They moved with inhuman precision, each step syncing like a choreographed ballet of doom. Linda took a long sip of her soda, crushed the can under her boot, and muttered, "All right, round 2. The trio stopped 10 feet from her. The leader's voice buzzed through the humid Kansas air, vibrating Linda's ribs with its sheer depth. Human Alpha designate. You terminated the V1 units. We are the V2. You will not survive." Linda cracked her knuckles. "You really upgraded your failure in under an hour? That's Amazon Prime service right there." Without warning, the first assassin dashed forward, faster than any Earth-born creature should move. Linda barely had time to react. She ducked under a sweeping blade, rolled into a stack of car doors, and came up holding a long length of rebar. She swung it hard, meeting the assassin's midsection with a thunderous clang that would have made a church bell jealous. The rebar bent. The assassin didn't. "All right," she muttered, tossing the rebar. "That one's new." The second assassin leapt from the side, dual plasma daggers aimed at her ribs. Linda yanked a car hood from the ground and used it as a shield, deflecting the twin blades with a screech of burning metal. She kicked upward, landing a blow to the assassin's jaw, and drove the hood into its chest like a battering ram. The third one was smarter. It stayed back, calculating, adjusting. Linda saw its glowing lenses whir and pulse. Her eyes flicked to a pile of propane tanks nearby. A thought hit her. She sprinted, baiting the second assassin toward her. Plasma scorched the ground around her boots as it gave chase. She reached the tanks, kicked one down the hill, and lobbed a spark plug at the top. The resulting explosion sent shrapnel and fire into the air like a redneck firework display. The assassin was caught mid-run. It flew backward in a flaming arc and crashed into a washing machine, which promptly exploded for reasons unknown. Linda chalked it up to probably still had a sock demon in it. The first assassin wasn't done. It advanced again, but this time more cautiously. Linda danced backward, grabbing a set of jumper cables and a car battery from a nearby rust pile. As the assassin lunged, she jabbed the cables onto its chest plate and jammed the live battery between its legs. Electricity surged. The assassin spasmed violently, caught mid-lunge like a horror-themed marionette with cut strings. Smoke poured from its joints as it collapsed in a heap. 2 down. The third assassin was already adapting. It activated a cloaking field, vanishing in a shimmer of light. Linda froze, eyes scanning. The junkyard fell silent. A drop of sweat rolled down her temple. She listened. The faint hum of an energy core. She turned and swung the monkey wrench blindly. It connected. The shimmer dropped. The cloaked assassin was there, reeling back with a cracked visor. Linda followed up with a headbutt that would have made a rhinoceros file a complaint. The assassin stumbled, tripped over a bent axle, and fell onto a pile of rusty car doors. Linda grabbed the heaviest object within reach, a tire iron roughly the size of an oar, and jammed it between the plates of its exposed chest. Then she paused. The assassin was gasping, its systems glitching, its HUD flickering. "Wait," she said, suddenly curious. "Do you guys even breathe? Or is that just dramatic malfunctioning?" The assassin gurgled something in its native tongue. Linda took that as a yes. It raised a hand, but instead of attacking, it tapped its wrist. Above them, a hologram burst into life, projected from some unseen orbital satellite. The image of Over-Commander Virex filled the sky, sneering down from what looked like a villain's personal holodeck. "I commend your tenacity, human, but your resistance is irrelevant. We will continue until Earth is subjugated. You cannot stand alone forever." Linda gave the sky the kind of look usually reserved for TV repairmen and ex-boyfriends. "Y'all keep sending chrome-plated show ponies, and I'll keep sending 'em home in Tupperware. You dare mock the might of the Empire?" Linda wiped a smear of oil off her nose. Buddy, I once fixed a 1983 Pontiac with duct tape, chewing gum, and a Bic lighter. Your boys ain't got nothing on Midwest engineering. The hologram blinked. What is Pontiac? Exactly. The transmission ended with a dramatic orchestral sting. Linda rolled her eyes. She stood amidst the wreckage, breathing heavy, her muscles aching, sweat mixing with grime. Her coveralls were torn in 3 places. One boot was missing its sole. But she was still standing. The third assassin, badly damaged, began to crawl away. Linda followed it slowly, stepping over debris, until she stood beside its twitching frame. It looked up at her, eyes flickering. Why? It rasped. Why what? Why are you not afraid? Linda crouched beside it. Her voice was calm, thoughtful. Because fear's a luxury. I was a single mom at 19, ran a repair shop through 2 recessions, survived 3 engine fires, and once got hit by a feral turkey. You think a bunch of shiny tin cans with swords scares me? The assassin blinked, confused. She stood again. Now tell your boss something for me. It nodded weakly. Next time he wants to send assassins, he better bring a toolbox. 'Cause this ain't fear he's dealing with. It's experience. With that, she turned, wrench slung over her shoulder like a battle standard, and walked back toward her shop. Behind her, the junkyard burned gently in the fading light. And above, somewhere deep in the cold reaches of space, the Empire reeled, not from loss of life, but from loss of dignity. Linda didn't know what they'd send next. Maybe mechs, maybe monsters, maybe politicians. She cracked her neck and muttered, "Better pack my big wrench next time." And with that, she disappeared into the dark, the scrapyard gates creaking shut behind her. She still had chili waiting, and a toaster that wouldn't fix itself. Far across the galaxy, aboard the Empire's flagship Final Reckoning, Supreme Overcommander Virex the Ninth brooded in his throne-like command chair, which had been carved from a collapsed neutron star purely for aesthetic intimidation. Unfortunately, no amount of galactic flair could erase the humiliation replaying on every data screen aboard the ship. One human woman, an Earth-native grease monkey with a caffeinated limp and a monkey wrench, had reduced the Empire's finest assassins to scorch parts and smoking circuits. Again. Pause the footage, Virex growled. The screen froze on Linda mid-swing, her wrench connecting with an assassin's faceplate in a scene that now held meme status across 17 sectors. Virex's advisors stood silently, unsure whether to speak or fake a fatal power outage. She hit Alpha 6 with a cooking appliance, hissed sub-strategist Drok, pointing at a frame where Linda flung a toaster like a discus. Virex's jaw flexed. That toaster was weaponized. It was plugged into nothing, sir. Silence. Another aide, nervous and sweating coolant, dared to speak. We, intercepted Earth's social feeds, Overcommander. The humans believe this is entertainment. They think it's a sitcom. A what? A 20-minute serial format for humor and mild emotional trauma. There's already a fan club called Wrench-momination. Their slogan is "Torque it to the Empire." Virex's eye twitched. Somewhere in the back of the command deck, someone choked back laughter and was promptly demoted to planetary janitor on a lava moon. No more half measures, Virex snarled. Initiate Plan B. Drelk paled. You mean Project Brute Algorithmic Conflict Combat? Yes, Virex said grimly, ignoring the acronym. Deploy the Obsidian Shroud. Back on Earth, Linda was elbow-deep in a transmission rebuild. Her shop smelled of brake fluid, gasoline, and coffee that had been reheated one too many times. Her hands were caked with grime. Her radio crackled with old country tunes and the occasional burst of alien static she hadn't yet bothered to report. The town had changed. Just a bit. Mostly due to the fact that 3 flaming alien wrecks still decorated her junkyard like sci-fi lawn ornaments. Kids came by to take selfies. Conspiracy bloggers camped outside her fence, theorizing everything from secret government tech to the second coming of Ripley from Aliens. Linda ignored them all. She had work to do. A 93 Buick needed a new exhaust, and as far as she was concerned, that trumped any interstellar nonsense until at least 4 p.m. That was when the sky cracked open. Unlike the previous dropship landings, this wasn't sleek or stylish. This new vessel emerged from a wormhole like a mechanical tumor, a jagged black wedge bristling with claw-like protrusions and shrieking with enough magnetic noise to fry AM radio across 3 counties. It slammed into the earth without grace, carving a smoking trench through a cornfield and belching out war fog thick as diesel exhaust. Pete from the taco truck wandered up the road, holding a quesadilla. Linda? I see it, she muttered, reaching for her toolbox. The obsidian shroud descended the ramp. This one was different. Not just an assassin. It was a weaponized nightmare, forged in an AI think tank and fused with combat data from thousands of galactic wars. It moved like liquid shadow, shifting form slightly with every step. Its face was featureless, save for a glowing V-slit across its skull. Weapons emerged from its limbs with mechanical hisses, shifting from swords to cannons to things that shouldn't exist in polite physics. It said nothing. Linda adjusted her tool belt and approached slowly. She felt the weight in the air, the kind that makes your teeth itch and your instincts mutter obscenities. Well, she said, you're definitely the new guy. The assassin didn't respond. Instead, it raised one arm and fired a barrage of sonic pulses that shattered every window in town and sent birds tumbling from the sky. Linda ducked behind a rusted-out El Camino and came up coughing, ears ringing. Okay, she muttered, guess we're skipping introductions. She charged. It met her halfway. The first clash was brutal. Linda's wrench slammed into a shimmering blade, throwing up sparks and sonic echoes. The assassin countered with an energy whip, but she rolled beneath it, popping up with a crowbar in her offhand. They danced through the junkyard, metal clashing on metal, steam hissing, fires igniting. Linda fought like a street brawler with a hardware store sponsorship. Every move was improvised, every weapon stolen from her surroundings, a hubcap here, a spark plug grenade there. The assassin adapted. It analyzed her movements, predicted her tactics, and began striking with terrifying precision. Linda was pushed back, breathing hard, her side throbbing from a glancing hit. She reached into her pouch and pulled out her ace in the hole, a homemade EMP cannon she'd cobbled together from a leaf blower, 2 microwaves, and a car battery. Let's see how smart you are without your brain juice. She pulled the trigger. The cannon sputtered, then whined, then exploded in a puff of smoke and regret. Linda blinked through the haze, eyebrows slightly singed. All right, that one's on me. The assassin lunged. She dodged barely, but took a hit to the shoulder that sent her sprawling. Her wrench skittered across the ground, coming to rest beside a dented toolbox. The assassin loomed over her, arm shifting into a blade charged with enough energy to slice a battleship in 2. It paused. Then its form rippled, ever so slightly. It flickered, processing. A faint glow emitted from its core, its AI running calculations. You hesitate, Linda coughed. What's the matter? You find my combat style statistically improbable. You are anomalous, it said at last, voice like a whisper in a vacuum. First time someone said that and meant it as a compliment. The assassin tilted its head, confused. That was all the opening she needed. Linda rolled, grabbed the toolbox, flipped it open, and flung a flashbang, a flare she'd built with magnesium strips and a firecracker, straight into its face. The thing reeled. She grabbed her wrench, drove it into the assassin's core with a scream, and twisted. It howled. Energy flared. Systems failed. The assassin convulsed violently, its limbs thrashing and sparking. Then it froze, twitched once, and dropped. Linda fell back, gasping. Pete jogged up, eyes wide. That thing looked like it wanted to rewrite reality. Yeah, Linda wheezed. It almost rewrote my organs. They looked at the heap of collapsed alien steel. Then above came a new sound. Applause. A hologram flickered into view, not from the Empire this time, but from the Galactic network that oversaw interstellar media. A sleek alien in a shimmering blazer beamed down at her like a game show host. Congratulations, human combatant Linda. You've just gone viral across 14 galaxies. Linda blinked. What? You're the top-rated stream on the Galactic net. Your improvisational combat, unpredictable tactics, and weaponized sarcasm have captured the hearts of billions. A new transmission began. It was a commercial. A toy replica of Linda, complete with tiny wrench and pull-string one-liners, spun in a holographic display. "Say it, wrench mama," a voice cheered. The doll chirped, "Ain't no problem duct tape can't fix, except stupid." Linda stared, jaw slack. Pete laughed. "You're famous. Intergalactic famous. Still want to fix that Buick?" Linda stood, dazed. "I think I just broke the universe with a socket wrench." As the hologram faded, Linda looked skyward. Somewhere up there, she knew, Virex was probably having a full meltdown, likely threatening an asteroid or punching a subordinate. She grinned. Let him try again. But he'd better bring more than assassins next time. He'd better bring snacks. Linda stood alone at the edge of her junkyard, boots planted firmly in scorched earth. Around her lay the remains of 4 elite alien assassins, 1 experimental AI death machine, and at least 3 flattened Ford pickups. Smoke drifted lazily from busted engine blocks and molten armor, curling into the crimson sky like cigarette ghosts. Somewhere behind her, Pete's taco truck was still playing Johnny Cash on a Bluetooth speaker duct taped to the windshield. The world had stopped pretending this was anything but insane. Linda didn't blame it. She gripped her monkey wrench tightly. Its once smooth steel now scorched, dented, and oddly revered. She didn't feel like a hero. She didn't feel like a warrior. She felt like a tired woman who hadn't had a decent cup of coffee since the Empire showed up. But now, something new stirred in the heavens. A portal opened in orbit, twice the size of any before. It shimmered with violet and obsidian hues, jagged at the edges like a broken mirror stitched into the cosmos. Earth's satellites blinked out. GPS stopped working. Power grids flickered. All around the planet, things failed, quietly, terrifyingly. From that rift came the Emperor himself. His war barge, the devourer of hope, descended into the atmosphere with none of the subtlety his assassins had shown. Its underside glowed with weaponized atmosphere converters, and its hull was lined with statues of conquered leaders, actual petrified bodies, sculpted mid-scream. The ship's arrival triggered a small tsunami on the east coast and made 3 mountain ranges subtly shorter. Linda didn't move. She took a breath, deep and patient, and exhaled through her nose. She pulled on her gloves. She twisted her wrench, testing the balance. A part of her had always known it would end like this, not with a whisper, but with an overcompensating alien dictator stomping into her zip code. The war barge hovered directly above her, casting a circular shadow over the junkyard. A beam of dark light shot down, and from it descended supreme Over-Commander Virex IX, Lord of the Obsidian Mantle, breaker of civilizations, father of 6 million fallen worlds, wearer of way too many epaulets. He hovered 6 inches off the ground, not walking, floating, arms crossed, his black armor gleaming with pulsing red veins. His crown resembled a circular saw mounted backward, and his cape billowed dramatically even though there was no wind. "You," he said, his voice low and echoing like a haunted cathedral. "Me," Linda replied, scratching her chin. "You have humiliated my empire. You have dismantled our finest warriors. You have turned our legacy of fear into a sitcom." "Well, I do have excellent comedic timing. Do you think this is a joke?" "No. I think you're a joke. I think you spent too long staring into your own reflection on the hull of your ship and forgot that fear only works on people who give a damn. I fix things, pal. And today, I'm fixing your invasion." Virex's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Rage, slow burning and icy. "I will erase your culture, your planet. I will wipe your name from history." Linda tilted her head. "You ever consider therapy?" Lightning cracked above them. Not Earth's lightning, something artificial, a system meant to awe and intimidate. It worked on a galactic scale. It didn't work here. Not on her lot. Not with rusted brake pads and retired refrigerators bearing witness. Virex extended a hand. A void blade hissed into being. A black sword made from compressed gravity and liquefied time. With a flick, it carved a scar into the ground. Linda gave a low whistle. Neat. Want to see what I got? She reached behind her and pulled out the big wrench. Not metaphorically, the big wrench. A 6-foot chrome beast she'd forged during a 6-month depressive episode and a surplus of vodka. It wasn't just a tool, it was a declaration. Virex attacked first. He came at her like a supernova in a black cloak. Each strike shattered sound barriers, his blade warping air and time with every swing. Linda dodged barely, rolled under a strike, blocked another with a shield made from a pickup truck door, and countered with a wrench swing that rang off his armor like a church bell during the apocalypse. They moved through the junkyard like dueling titans. Car frames bent. Engines exploded. Her toolbox caught fire. Virex drove her back, relentless, precise. He moved like someone who had ended wars with single gestures. But Linda moved like someone who had fought rust, weather, and human stupidity for 30 years. She didn't have elegance. She had grit. She jammed a muffler into his knee joint, slammed the wrench down onto his pauldron, denting it. When he blasted her back with a pulse wave, she flipped off a collapsing sedan and came down swinging. "You are chaos," Virex growled, staggering. "Buddy," she gasped, bleeding from her forehead, "I'm an American blue-collar woman in her 40s. Chaos is my coping mechanism." Virex summoned a temporal fissure. It crackled between them, tearing open a view into another timeline. In it, Earth was already conquered. Her junkyard was a crater. Her wrench sat rusting. She looked at the image, then smashed the fissure generator with her wrench. No spoilers. Virex roared and slammed her into the side of a box truck. Her ribs cracked. Her vision blurred. But she grinned through the blood. "You think I haven't had worse," she muttered, pushing herself up. "I once did a carburetor swap during a tornado while a raccoon chewed on my ankle." He raised his blade for the final strike. She pulled the string. Behind him, a dozen propane tanks she'd wired together earlier, a trick she called the Kansas Special, ignited in a chain reaction. The explosion turned the sky into fireworks. Virex staggered, momentarily engulfed. That was her chance. Linda charged through the flames, wrench raised, scream rising from her gut. She brought it down on his exposed chest core, again and again and again. Metal cracked. Circuit screamed. And finally, the armor gave way. Virex fell, coughing up something that sparked and buzzed. His floating throne dipped as systems failed. "You are nothing," he rasped. Linda crouched beside him, wrench across her knees. "Nah, I'm just a mechanic. You're the one who thought power meant fear. But here's the thing about humans. You give us a reason to fight, and you better bring more than fancy swords and a cape. You better bring duct tape, caffeine, and spite." He tried to speak again. She conked him once more for good measure. His lights went out. Above, the war barge began to retreat. Systems detected the fall of their emperor and initiated auto-recall. Across the galaxy, feeds updated. Empire humiliated by single human. The wrench wins. Earth now under protection of Wrench Mama. Linda stood slowly, shoulders shaking, half in exhaustion, half in laughter. Pete ran toward her, camera crew in tow. Someone tossed her a towel. Another offered an energy drink. "You all right?" Pete asked. She nodded, sipping the drink. "They'll be back. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not this year. But they'll come up with something dumber." Pete shrugged. "You'll still be here?" Linda smiled, sun rising behind her, the junkyard glowing like a battlefield from legend. "I'll be here, wrench in hand, coffee in the other. And maybe next time I'll use the blowtorch." And with that, Linda walked off toward her garage, the earth quiet again. For now, while the universe nursed its pride and redefined the definition of human threat. One woman, one wrench, and infinite chaos.